Good afternoon and welcome to the Healthy Indoors live show. I'm your host, Bob Krell. I'm the founder and publisher of Healthy Indoors magazine. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a great show today. The topic is cleaning, restoration, and remediation. And to that end, we have someone who's been instrumental in that industry for longer than you'd probably like to admit. So we'll be back with our featured guest for today, Larry Cooper, after a word from our sponsor.
Indoor air quality is now on the minds of everybody. How can we improve the air quality in general? So ErLab is a company that provides protection through filtration for your breathing zone in the laboratory and outside the laboratory. And why we're here in the commercial space today is to provide protection for the air that we breathe. It's very important in commercial spaces, obviously, because there's a lot of people that come in and out of restaurants, schools, long-term care facilities, whatever it may be, offices. So we want to provide the healthiest air possible so we can get back to some sort of normalcy.
And we're here today with Larry Cooper. He is the managing partner of the Experience Events out in, I forget which city in Colorado, sorry.
We're in beautiful Broomfield, Colorado.
It is. That's embarrassing. I know we're Denver and a couple of other places.
We're right in between Denver and Boulder. We're in a gorgeous spot. The foothills are very close by.
Excellent. So, Larry, we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff today, but let's first preface by the fact that you have a big event, in-person event, coming up in just a few weeks. The Experience Convention and Trade Show once again is going to be live and available. It's this year. It's from September 8th to 10th in the Paris Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. Right?
You got it, man. We're really excited to have a show, obviously, and we haven't been in Vegas in 2 years because of the pandemic, and we're ready. And I got to tell you, there's so many people excited to be a part of the show. We're very thankful that we have so many great people working with us.
Well, we're really, we're happy to have you here today, and I know, you're probably super busy right now. This taking even an hour out of your day, I'm sure, just a few weeks before an event is nightmarish. But so we'll talk about the event. But I really would. Well, actually, let's talk about the event a little first. Let's give us some details about what's going on. Just a quick, 10,000 foot overview of the event.
Well, the event, this will actually be our 41st convention and trade show in the industry. And the Experience was named appropriately because we feature a lot of hands-on live demonstrations at our show. You know, one of the things that we learned early on was that being in a classroom is great. We gain a little bit of knowledge. So we actually went out and started doing research about how people learn, and especially people that are in our industry. What level of retention would they have in a classroom? And what we found was sitting in a classroom, they retain about 15% of what they hear. Now, some people are really good at taking notes, but most don't take any notes whatsoever. They're looking at the screen, looking at the speaker, and trying to retain some information. So what we found then was that if we actually combine classroom with hands-on demonstration and then actually allow the attendee to use the tools, to use the new technology that's coming into the show, their retention level just soared about to 80%. So that was really our calling to say, you know what? We need to make sure people are having a great experience by being involved in what's happening, all the new tools, all the new ideas, all the new technology. Let's put it in their hands and let them try it. Let's have some of our experts do live demonstrations. They can see it, feel it, touch it, and actually bring it back to their company and do it. And that's how we built the whole experience. So we combined 5 tracks of education for 3 days with a trade show hall that's about 90,000 square feet. We have 240 booths, 18 pavilions, and probably about 16,000 square feet of live demonstrations going on inside the show. So that'll give you an overview.
Yeah, and that's pretty unique. I mean, we spend, with the magazine, I've spent many years traveling around and being at different industry events in the various vertical silos, right? In all the different sectors of the indoor environmental industries per se. And that's what you're describing is not. It's not common. It's not a common way that events are held, right? I mean, this really hands-on, touch it, see it, feel it type thing, as opposed to just lecture, seems like a great format.
Yeah, and I used myself when we saw those statistics. I used myself as a model, go into a classroom and see what I could retain from the class, and it was to what I really wanted to retain and gain. But then when I went to some live demonstrations where they were showing me how to use the tools, showing me how to use new programs or technology, and then let me try it, all of a sudden I was like, you know what, I can implement this right away in my company. And that made a big difference. And that's how we move towards that type of teaching and classroom as well.
Yeah, and that, again, I think that's a powerful way of learning. People learn a lot better. Well, especially, and not to even call the industry blue collar, but it is. I mean, most people that are doing restoration work or cleaning work or remediation work are pretty, it's pretty much blue collar service related work. And yeah, just speaking in theory, yeah, people probably don't retain all that much from that perspective.
Yeah, I think that's a critical component of the show. But, really what the show is about right now is getting back together, having a chance to see each other again, and a couple of slaps on the back, fists, whatever, and just having an opportunity to be together and create that energy again in the industry moving forward. So people, I think, really miss that opportunity to be with their peers at events like this. So this really is a unique opportunity, and man, I'm excited to see everybody myself.
Oh yeah, I mean, we've kind of been sequestered for a long time here. it's we haven't done a live show ourselves with the magazine since actually the last live event that we did in person was I keynoted IIQA back in 2019. It's actually been that long.
Wow.
So I've been in.
Yeah. And I understand that completely, because that's right where we've been too. Now, we did hold a show in Charleston in April, but we were really into the safety aspects of, what we need to do to protect people, obviously. And so we did surveys, health surveys, we did temperature readings, we did everything we possibly could to protect our attendees. And we had no problems whatsoever. We had over 1,000 people at that event in Charleston. It was a wonderful venue there. But we're really excited to be in Vegas. I mean, Vegas, we're expecting over 3,000 people. And again, we want everybody to be safe. We're going to ask them to wear masks. But that's, a simple thing. And when I came through the restoration industry, I was used to wearing masks all the time. I took care of myself. I was wearing masks on my jobs, especially when there was mold or other particles in the air or sewage or whatever we were dealing with. So it's not that unusual for me. And our staff will be wearing masks, and the hotel will be asking everyone to wear masks.
Yeah, and that's, I feel the same way too, because I come from the IIQ industry, and have been involved as both a consultant and a contractor for 35 years ish now.
You're young.
And, yeah, I guess. Well, which leads to my next question. Well, I'm not going to ask the question per se, but it's like, you do not look old enough to have been around that long. So you started you started at 12. You started. When did you start in the industry?
I started at 15.
Wow.
Yeah. So my mother knew someone that had a carpet cleaning company, and I went to work for them. And I stayed with them for a couple of years. After the first year, I was running his company for him. I had 3 crews, and, I was almost 17 years. I guess I was 17 years old, and he didn't want to pay me more than $5 an hour. And I was bringing in about $1,000 a day. And I was like, well, this is crazy. So I left there. And a year later, I was almost 19. I started my own company. And so we ran a cleaning and restoration company in Colorado for over 30 years.
I mean, so you actually started in 72 though, because that's, in 72, I'm going to be honest, Larry. I mean, not to try to, date you or anything here, but in 72, I think I was in maybe ninth grade or eighth grade. I mean, it was a while ago.
Yeah, yeah, it was a while ago, and technology was non-existent. We didn't really know how well we were doing cleaning. We were using portable machines. We were using shampooers with those portable machines, and there was no science. There were no written books for us to go to. And I'm going to tell you, my first job I went on, there were 4 guys on the job. We're just cleaning an apartment, but the owner of the company liked to have some fun, so he had a shampooer, and this carpet was filthy. It was a student housing situation. And so he took this shampoo brush and he inserted these plastic bristles into the brush. He custom made it. And that really agitated the nylon fiber and yarns in the carpet. Well, I'm watching them, and, they're all just kind of standing back. And he said, "Here, I want you to try this out." And I'm like, "I've never run a floor machine before. I don't feel comfortable doing this." It's so easy. Don't worry about it. So I grabbed the handles and I started going, and it started bouncing. It would not stay on the floor, and it kept bouncing, and I could not control the machine, and it bounced right into the wall, through the wall. Well, they thought it was absolutely the funniest thing they'd ever seen, and that was my introduction to the carpet cleaning industry.
That's one way to do it. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure that's the easiest way to do it.
Yeah,
Well,
it wasn't my favorite day.
And I started in air duct cleaning. Just that was my introduction to the industry back in '86, and I literally got hired by a company because I in college had been a chimney sweep. It's like all the great technologies, right? And they brought me in. It's like, so we want to start a duct cleaning division. Can you figure it out? It's like, okay, and the technology then was, in that industry was pretty primitive as well. So what I think is really fascinating, Larry, is that you've had such a long run in the industry, in numerous capacities, but, both as a contractor, as a trainer, as an event producer now, of course, but, also, with IICRC and other organizations, right? Standard setting and doing a lot of stuff. So you've had a pretty good, overview, or I should say, just access to viewing the whole growth of the industry and the transitions over the last 40 years plus, right? And
Yeah,
have things
years.
changed? How have things changed? What are some of the significant changes you've seen?
The great thing about what's happening in the industry is there's finally some science. And so that was really my goal, was to raise the bar of our industry to the highest level we possibly can. It's all about protecting consumers in their environment, commercial or residential, as well as protecting our employees when they're doing that work. And we didn't do a very good job of that when I started my business. It was crazy what we were doing, but it was what people were saying, "Oh yeah, that's how we do it." And of course, there was no one doing any testing and really giving us valid information about what we were doing. So I had some great opportunities. I was president of the PCUCA, which is out of Colorado, met hundreds of fellow cleaners and restorers, started teaching classes from some of the things we were doing. And then I was able to share more and more information. And then we started doing, different type of testing to see what was possible out there. Now, I got involved with IICRC in 1984, before you were in the industry. And it was a very small organization, maybe 500-600 people, and had great potential. But my wife was actually president of the PCUCA at the time, and she got invited to the meeting for the IICRC to talk about associations coming together under that umbrella. And I just went along to observe. At the end of the meeting, they appointed me vice president, and 6 months later, the president resigned, and I became president. And I knew so little, but it was such an amazing learning opportunity. And I had the most amazing peers to work with. These people were so passionate about doing things right in our industry and expanding education and finding ways to certify people across the world. It was just a unique opportunity. And then I had the opportunity to get involved in the standards. We really learned a lot quickly. There were no standards of care in the industry when we got involved. And our first standard was for carpet cleaning. And then our attorney found this organization called the American National Standards Institute. His name was Mark Hansen. And so I worked with Mark, and the two of us were able to apply to be a standard developer with ANSI. And we were accepted. And then the first standard we did under ANSI was the S500, which was the water damage restoration standard. And then we did the S520 following that. And boy, I got to tell you what an education that was, because guys like you, Bob, were coming in with this expertise and knowledge about what we were really doing. And there was no scientific basis. So, you know, that term MUS, we were doing that every day. We were making up stuff to put in the standard so we could challenge it to see if it was real or not. And so that's been the most exciting thing for me to watch, is how the standards have changed the industry and all the testing and verification that's going on. I don't want to say it out loud, but I will. But when we used to see black stuff on the walls and water damage, we just point our air mover at them. It would disappear. It was magic. I mean,
if you think about it, and you know, even up until the late 90s and maybe as early as maybe even 2000, that still was kind of the way things were done.
Yeah, I agree.
Until the mold rush, 2000 mold rush, and suddenly things went crazy.
It was a great opportunity, and boy, did I meet some amazing people, so knowledgeable and so dedicated to the industry. They wanted to share what they knew.
What's interesting too is that, you bring up the ANSI standard process, because that's rigorous. That's super rigorous. When I was with NADCA, I chaired the standards for a short window of time, just toward the end of my tenure there, and we were at least initially seeking ANSI approval. And wow, that really was a rigorous process of just the whole way you have to document, the way you have to allow comment periods and address everything. And it's it's not simple. So hats off to being able to do that.
Yeah, reaching consensus is an interesting thing. And we really had to let our egos disappear in that process, because consensus means that, people generally agree with what you're doing. And we formed this little way to work with committees. So at the peak of when I was overseeing the development of standards for the IICRC, we had 186 volunteers, and we were doing in-person meetings to discuss chapters and writing and information. And we had these cards that were 0 through 5. And if you had a 5, we would take a vote. People put up a 5. It meant they agree, let's move forward. But every once in a while, you'd get a 1 or a 2, and the meeting stopped.
Oh, so people would hold them up like an auction?
Well, basically to vote, like a voting card.
Oh, okay. All right. That's interesting.
And so when we got a 1 and 2, we just stopped the process, Bob, completely, because that was the ANSI process. Everybody has the right to be heard. Everybody has an opinion. And if they could explain what their opinion is and change the opinion of the committee, we would change that area. So it became a longer process, but it was a very good process because we got buy-in from everybody. And not everybody agreed with everything that was in the document, but they had their opportunity to be heard. And once we created what was in the standard, everybody could challenge it. Everybody could test it. And then the next document, they could bring it back. So it was really fun. I remember one meeting, I had some great chairs of chapters. And one meeting we were talking about microbiology. And this is the most vivid memory I have of any meeting. We had so many doctors and micro people there, and they were so passionate about their information. Well, we couldn't get anything done in the room because none of them agreed with each other. So finally, we separated the room into two different groups, and they chose where they wanted to go. And then we had to take the two different opinions and bring them back together to meld them and get an agreement. But the interesting thing was a couple of the guys were participating in both groups. They didn't want to be in one group or the other. They were sitting in the middle and participating in both. I've never seen so many brilliant people in a room before. And it was such a thrill to work with them all and learn from them. And I was like a sponge, man. I was just taking in all the information I could. And the beauty of volunteering that I always tell everybody is I was able to take that information back to my company and implement it into my company. And we were leading the field in the area because of that knowledge we were gaining by volunteering or being involved in the process.
Yeah, and that, I mean, I found that to be true too in my tenure. Working with organizations and being involved with standard setting and those sort of things, it really does give you this chance to be exposed to a lot of different perspectives and a ton of really brilliant people. If you have sizable committees, there's some brilliant minds that you can interface with, and obviously you all grow from that. So that's huge. Um, so the process, I'm assuming, and again, you're not directly involved. You're not currently on any IICRC standards at this point.
I am not. I have not been involved for about 10 years.
Yeah, and I it's been 20 years for me since I've been in any standard setting. It's I'm assuming it's changed to some extent because obviously, well, at least the past 2 years, it's all remote, right? Probably no meetings were held in person, but I almost suspect that there'll be more meetings that are done remotely for these type of committees, just from the standpoint of logistics, right? And the cost of meeting in person.
Yeah, and I think doing the meetings remotely is nice, but you don't have the passion and fire as being together in a room together. We gained so much by being face to face. And I got to tell you, these were not, let's approve this kind of thing. These were fire and brim meetings, man. These guys were going after each other and, trying to prove their points about, what we were trying to put on paper. And it was fascinating. And, at the end of the day, we all went to dinner and had a great time together. Mm-hmm. But that was the level of passion that went into those documents. You don't get that on Zoom.
No, you can't. You're right. You're right. And I think back of my days too of these in-person meetings. We did most of ours down in Alexandria, Virginia, and there was some of them were a little rough. I'm not gonna lie. We all, because you think about it, right? You bring a bunch of entrepreneurs into a room together.
Oh yeah.
Who all think they do everything perfect. You're not necessarily going to get consensus readily.
Well, and we bring them into the room because they have an opinion. Without that level of opinion and the diversity of opinion, how do you ever reach consensus as an industry that maybe this is the best way to move forward? And then let's take that structure and test it and see if we really are doing it correct. And maybe we can advance a couple more levels up with that testing.
So you were involved. So name off the standards that you were involved with for IICRC, because I know there's a numerous bunch there, or if you can.
Yeah, I was involved in S100, which was carpet cleaning, S300, which was upholstery cleaning, S500, which was water damage restoration, and then S520, which was mold remediation. When I left, we were working on S600, which was never published. And since then, Millie Washington has taken them to a whole new level. She is a consummate expert, obviously, on standards, and she has taken them. I think they have 20 or 25 standards now, which is fantastic. And there have been some great standard chairs over the years, working with Barry Costa and Howie Wolf. These guys were just sensational to work with, and the information they brought forward was fantastic. The organization skills are important.
So what's interesting to me too is so when you started in the industry, as when I started in the duct cleaning industry, there weren't any standards. So right. It was Wild West, right? Pretty much everybody made up their own rules. They were, so there was very large variances in degrees of the care that was done by various contractors. because no standards means, you can have really good and really bad all going on at the same time. So since, this whole transition of moving towards more standards-based practices, and I'm going to talk in general now with the cleaning, restoration, and remediation, because you've been
Sure.
involved in standards in all of those. Um, how has that changed maybe the perspective of the industry from the outside, maybe from other professionals outside of those industries, like thinking like consultants, architects, engineers, that sort of thing? How do they view these industries? Do you think that's helped it?
I think it has. I think that there's a lot of people that still don't follow the standards, don't use the standards, and kind of make it up themselves how they want to do it. But I did a lot of consulting and expert witness work, and I can recall one case. I went into a deposition, and there were 7 attorneys there. It was on a water damage restoration with mold case, actually in Arizona, and it was so interesting that every one of them had a copy of S500 and 520 in their hands. So that tells you the level that we reached with putting things in writing and actually following a standard of care that really helps the environment, helps the people that are living there. And, testing is critically important.
I mean, there has, yeah, and I think that you hit on a really important point there. You do need some sort of a litmus test per se, right, to what passes, what fails. But where it gets really challenging, because you chaired the first S520, the mold standard. I've been involved a lot as a mold consultant over the years, and it's a challenging industry because there's not really an agreed upon what passes and what fails necessarily, right? That's made up almost on a job by job basis by the various consultants that put these things together to some extent, right? So doesn't that writing a standard on mold seems like that would be especially challenging, right?
It was especially challenging because there was so much passion about what the standard should be, what's safe for humans in an indoor environment. And so, yeah, it's very difficult to say, this is the number. And it seems to be a moving target. And the more we learn about the indoor environment and the processes to clean the indoor environment properly, that number is changing, obviously. And so I think that will continue to change over many more years coming into the future. And at our show in Las Vegas, there's new technology coming in that we've never seen before. And so there's some devices now that you can just set in a room, and it measures all the bacteria, the virus, and the mold that's in the room. I've never seen this kind of technology before. We're thrilled to have it there. We're going to have them set it up and use it there so we can kind of see what it's doing. They're going to present on that also. At the last show, there was a gentleman there that has some new technology that is a UV, but it is so intense. UVC is pretty strong, and this was, I think, 4 or 5 levels above UVC, and it had a pulse. This frequency that was added to it, it pulsed more than 100 times per second. And his claim is that the light that he uses with this device kills virus, bacteria, and mold on contact. And so great ideas, great technology. Now everybody's got to prove what the possibilities are. And I've seen maybe 4 or 5 other devices and tools like this coming on the market. So things obviously are going to change in the future.
I mean, but you do touch on a point there. There's new technology coming out, but a lot of times it's not really proven, or what you're seeing is marketing claims, right, as opposed to third-party substantiated claims. I mean, over the course of this past 18 months with the pandemic, there's been a lot of air cleaning technology that's been brought to the market. Some of it suspect, no question about it, right? Because of course, you have an opportunity to start selling equipment. So, how does an industry, and this is tough too, because it's kind of like herding cats, because you're talking about an industry here that's a broad industry, right? Because it's cleaning. I mean, just your event encompasses cleaning, restoration, and remediation. These are these are really separate silos for the most part. Many of the companies do all those things, but
Right.
right, they're
Yeah,
different.
that's a great comment too, because people ask me all the time, who's attending your show? Are they cleaners or are they restorers or remediators? And my comment is, well, they're 70% cleaners and they're 70% restorers and they're 70% remediators. Not all of them do everything, but there's such a huge crossover that they're all involved in a lot of different services like that.
Yeah, and that would make it somewhat, somewhat complex, I think. Again, because they're related. Because I even, I was heavily involved. I came up on the remediation side, dealing with remediation. Obviously, air duct cleaning I would consider as remediation. I mean, it kind of is. I mean, it was before there was remediation, right? And that's how we got involved in the microbial aspects, dealing with it from HVAC centric standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So we were dealing with mold and bacteria in HVAC, which got, from my business in the early 90s, got us looking at mold in the indoor environment, because it wasn't just limited to the HVAC. The comment you made earlier about the black spots on the wall, we're cleaning HVAC in a building that thinks they have a mold problem in the ductwork. And, well, there's mold on the walls. What do you do about that? There's mold on the outside of the
big
ductwork.
deal if it's on the walls.
Yeah. All that's just mildew. I love that term. That's one of the ones that still sticks in my craw. But anyway.
Well, that's a great comment. And what I can tell you is, even in my own service company, we were doing 500 to 600 water damage jobs a year. We had full-time trucks just set up for water damage, but we were using carpet cleaning machines to do the extraction. We're using air movement that we're using carpet cleaning also. We were using disinfectants, biocides, and things for carpet cleaning. And then we had to change our technology as we got into mold. So there was a lot of crossover and cross-training. But, it was a very serious business. And you got to be real crazy to get in the business anyway. The phone doesn't ring until you get home from work, right? Then you're going back out again all night, and then you're back in the work next morning. So that was kind of how the business ran. But it was a fantastic business, helping people. And I'll never forget the job I walked into where the sewage was in the basement, floor to ceiling. And we were like, what the heck do you do with that load? I'm just like, wow. So we learned a lot in the field also that we were able to bring back to the industry. And, our company was a company that really tried the best methods we can. But communication with customers was something we had to learn. And we were one of the first companies that was sued by a consumer for using a biocide in her house. We had this terrible job in her house. Everybody was sick, mold everywhere. And we went in and we thoroughly cleaned it and we fogged it. Now, I disclosed to her we were going to do it, but I didn't get it in writing. So we go in, we finish the job. She comes back in. She tells us she can't live in the house because it's polluted with this biocide we sprayed. And we were like, what? Never even thought of that before, right? And so we ended up replacing all of her clothing, cleaning everything again, removing all the sheetrock, replacing it, repainting the house, replacing all the floor covering material. And then we hired an attorney to help us write language about disclosure. What is it that we're going to be using on the jobs? And you could say, yes, I want to use this, or no, I don't give you permission to do it. They initial it and sign it with the appropriate language. So, I mean, we were doing that in the early 90s, and Dry's followed us with language similar, but 3 or 4 of us got sued within 2 months across the country. And we didn't end up in the lawsuit, but it cost us a lot of money to fix the house so she would move back in. Yeah.
But think about it. At that point in time, in the early '90s or even late '80s, early '90s, chemical use is pretty rampant. The air duct cleaning industry, one of the the big add-ons is clean and sanitize your ductwork. Where there's any real reason to do that, I would argue there isn't. Unless you really have a microbial issue while you're spraying biocides at ductwork.
I
But
think the EPA agreed with you, right?
they did, yeah. Well, I mean, and I spent a lot of time working with the EPA too, on behalf of NADCA. So we had during those years in the '90s, I had a lot of dialogue back and forth. We actually ran a research project, cooperative research development agreement with EPA, and did an air duct cleaning study down. We ran it at Research Triangle Park.
Oh yeah.
In North Carolina, and it was a lot of our tax dollars. Probably $1 million of tax money was spent on this research. It was a pilot study, and we learned a lot. We actually tried using a biocide and not using a biocide, and if you actually did really good cleaning technique in metal ductwork. Now this was metal; it was limited to metal, not fiberglass. It didn't make that much of a difference. It actually had almost very less than 1% type effect on the outcome. So it really raises the question of why would you want to add that to the environment if you don't need to?
Boy, I agree with you 100%. And I got to a point where I was concerned about using biocides, and I was very happy that.
Well, getting sued would probably get you there.
Oh, it got my attention in a hurry.
Wake you up.
Watching every job, but when they came out with plant-based materials that we could use to disinfect, we switched everything over.
No, and that makes total sense. Again, my whole thing is an IAQ guy, right? It's like, there's chemicals that need to be used to achieve certain results. You have to use chemicals in certain instances. I mean, every project requires some chemicals.
Absolutely.
The key is to use the chemicals when you need them, but don't use chemicals you don't need, and try to use the least. It comes down to the risk-benefit analysis, right? Right. It's like you don't want to be bringing a product in that's more potentially problematic to the occupants than the problem they had there that you're supposedly addressing.
Yeah. And I saw that we did a study in I was in the '90s also with Dr. Michael Berry and Gene Cole called the Denver study. Mm-hmm. And the Denver study was about cleaning methods. And so we did 7 cleaning methods in 7 different type of buildings. And it was so fascinating to learn that some of the things we were doing were putting more pollution into the environment, and we weren't aware of it. And so we learned a lot through their tests, and they published some great papers from it. But nonetheless, it's all experience, obviously. And the more we can learn by doing testing, the better off we are overall.
I mean, there's no question about it. The industry, I know in my years, and again, I've got a considerably less tenure than yours. Because you said you started in '72 when you were 15, right?
Yeah.
You don't. Anyway, I'm still. I can't.
I'm a weird being, man. I'm also married to the same girl I was dating when I was 15. So there you go.
Wow. Okay. So yes, you're an anomaly on many fronts. So that's good. No, you're doing something right, dude. I mean, you got to be.
I'm just living life every day and enjoying every minute I can.
I guess it shows. You see, and again, we haven't had an awful lot of interaction over the years, but we've crossed paths a few times. And you always seem to be a pretty jovial, up guy. I always one thing I always read off of you, Larry, is you seem to be positive. Yeah, you exuberant. You're very exuberant, and you just seem to be, have a positive demeanor around you, which is a nice thing.
We all have choices to make in life, right?
Yeah, I guess and some people don't make great choices, but that's that's neither here nor there. So one of the things I mentioned that your event is actually titled that, or at least subtitled somewhere that that it's cleaning, restoration, or remediation. So those are, and you did mention that most of the companies of the 70-70-70 is it's a mix, it's a melding of the different industries.
Yeah.
But doesn't that still present at least some challenge as far as the content that you offer? Because there's a lot of different content you have to bring to a show that covers all those areas, right?
Yeah, and it really doesn't. So what we did is we created something that's called a track system for our convention. And so we have 5 tracks of education, and they run concurrently. People have to choose where they want to go. So the first track is for cleaning. anything to do with flooring, upholstery, anything cleaning wise, the guys are involved in. That's track 1. Track 2 is all related to restoration and remediation. All the presentations are related specifically to water, mold, bacteria, sewage, whatever the heck it is we're getting into. That's what that track is. The third track then is all about, running your company with management and marketing, having people come in and share what they do in their company. Some experts come in and talk about systems they could put in place to be more successful, how to write a business plan, how to write a marketing plan, how to implement them. And then we also have the next track, which is track 4, and we include a variety of things in there. So it could be the good life is one of the tracks. We do something that we think is critically important at our show. We have a large pavilion that's called Health and Wellness Pavilion. And it's all about how we're living every day. We're on these jobs and we don't prepare well, meaning that we don't take care of ourselves and our employees. So, you got a crew of 10 guys, they come in, none of them have eaten breakfast.
Yeah, you don't eat well, you eat crap fast food, you're always in a hurry.
Right. At lunch, they run to McDonald's or Wendy's or Burger King or whatever, eat crap, and then we wonder why they don't feel good, why they're not operating at 100%. Also, we're doing so many things with our body, scrub wanding with this shoulder, lifting, cleaning wall surfaces. How do we stretch our body and take care of ourselves before we go out on these jobs? So it's been very, very interesting to have the good life in there. But then we also do social media type of things. How can you maximize your website? What should you be doing to advertise to customers? And then finally, in the 5th track, we're doing something different we've never done before. The first day, Wednesday, all of our classes are in the Spanish language. We wanted to increase the opportunity for more people to come in and learn. And we have a lot of people that attend our show that are more comfortable learning in Spanish than English. We're happy to work with them and help them. We also have Normie on the program. Normie is all related to remediation. And so they're going to be teaching remediation skills, not just in the classroom, but also in the trade show hall. And then also we have ARCS, and that's the Association for Rug Cleaners. So all of them will be presenting in track 5 also. So the combination of those tracks is critical. Now, one thing also different about our show is when the education is open, the trade show is closed. When the trade show is open, the education is closed in the classroom. So when you go into our trade show, we feature hands-on demonstrations. There's 240 booth spaces. There's 18 pavilions surrounding it. The first thing you'll notice is that we build houses in the trade show. And we do this for a reason. We build houses. One of them this year, we're going to flood. This is probably the 7th year we've flooded the house there.
How's the hotel feel about that? That seems scary.
Oh man, you should see the engineers.
You must have a hell of a disclaimer on your rental rider for this space. We're gonna flood your hall.
First time I did it at the Mirage, I had to meet with the engineers, tell them what I was doing, and I protect everything so no water can seep out. Well, we get there to set up, and they had covered the whole floor in plastic.
All the carpet,
there's
everything
a space under the floor, a void where all the electric's running. And I'm looking at them going, are you guys serious? And they're like, what do you mean? I said, well, if water were to run, where would it go? Well, if it's on the plastic, it's going to go to the edges and go under.
Right.
So now you're going to flood everything, right? I said, let me show you what I'm doing. I use this thick rubber under the house. And then I use PVC around the outside. And we make a bath, basically a big tub the house sits in. But the amazing thing about flooding a house like this, even though I put in 1,000 to 1,500 gallons into the house, the building material absorbs so much of it. So little drips onto the rubber base. It's incredible what it'll hold. And so then what we do at the house, the first house, we spend 3 days teaching people the latest technology using the most advanced equipment available in the industry. teaching them how to monitor the jobs, how to know when it's dry, using different types of devices to show it drying. And then we have a company that comes in and brings in cameras. So we're able to monitor the actual drying process. And it's fantastic. And usually we're drying a day or two, and we have to re-wet it to keep it going. But those classes are great. And then this year, next to it, we built a second house, which we're keeping dry. Because of the amount of remediation that's going on in our industry, we're talking about PPE. How do you really dress to go into these situations? How do you protect everybody? How do you don and doff? And then also when you get into clean, what methods are you using? How are you doing it? How efficiently are you doing it? So we're teaching them hands-on how to actually do the jobs, which is a great opportunity. And then this year we're doing something hands-on we've never done. Right next to the two houses, I built a cage. It's 50 by 25. And inside that cage, there's 3 hands-on stations going on. One of them's a live stage with a video camera, a big screen, so you can see everything they're doing with the live demonstration. You can get about 100 people in there at a time. But what we're finding over at the house is we'll get 400 or 500 people at a time over there. So we're expanding as much as we can. Right next to the cage is hands-on with Jeff Jones. Normie's right after that. And then across the trade show hall, our friends at Shaw Industries, the largest manufacturer of floor covering, have brought in the Shaw Learning Lab. First time they've really done this. And they're going to be teaching what their new products are, how to maintain them, how to clean them, how to repair them, hands-on. And those are really unique opportunities. And then in the back of the trade show hall, Centrum Force is going to have a full rug cleaning plant. And then we have the health and wellness pavilion. And right in the center of the trade show hall, Clean Right will actually be teaching people how to clean fiber and fabrics. So, I mean, there's more than that going on, but that's kind of a generalization of some of the hands-on going on in there.
See, and that's huge because, I mean, you're going to have a fairly highly attended event. I mean, there's a lot of people. If you get 3,000 or more people there, this is really great that you have so many different hands-on activities going concurrently there.
Yeah.
So there's an opportunity for people to kind of spread out, and that's another difference because most trade show halls, not always, but many events keep them open during the learning sessions. So I mean, what it seems like you've done a paradigm shift to some extent, saying that our trade show is actually part of our learning.
Well, I've stood in those trade show booths when the classes are going on, and it's great to meet all the other vendors. But the reason I was there was to meet all the attendees. And so we have dedicated trade show hours, 4 hours the first day, 3.5 hours the second day, 3 hours the third day. That's all that's going on at our show. And to entice them to come in, I'm giving them free food, and I have a keg of beer in there. What else could you ask for?
Free food and free beer are always enticements. And it's like, I mean, it would get me there.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And what I need to tell you about is we used to do breakfast and lunches at our show all the time. And we would throw away 50 to 60% of the food, which drove me crazy. I wanted to save it and bring it somewhere where somebody could eat it. And of course, the hotel couldn't do that. So we surveyed our members and our attendees. And what I found out was that they really wanted to have cocktail receptions and parties, none of the others. So we canceled the breakfast and lunches. We have a cocktail reception on the day before at registration. We'll get 500 to 700 people just networking there. And then the first day of the trade show hall, there's a cocktail reception in the trade show hall. The second day, which is actually September the 9th, we're throwing what I think will be the biggest party in the industry ever. We're expecting 24 to 2,500 people to come to a dinner. There's no other cost. If you have a name badge, you're invited to dinner. And then I hired these rock and roll lead stars from the 80s The group was called the Legends. They were in Vegas. They're coming in and doing a private concert for our group for 90 minutes. We're building a huge stage with a full band, and it's just a great party atmosphere, a great place to let loose and just have some fun. And I haven't told many people this, but the first hour of that dinner, I'm opening up the bar so it's free for everyone.
See, now I'm definitely coming.
I mean, you know what? After 2 years, it's time to party and let loose and have some fun.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's the thing. If you're going to have an in-person event, the networking, I think that's one thing we've really experienced heavily for the past 18 months. There's been a lot of virtual events. We've run a bunch of them. I mean, we've been involved with, I think, 7 online conferences that we've actually hosted and ran. And it really is, I'm going to say, not impossible, but very difficult to replicate networking experiences. You know, you can sort of do some of it with Zoom meetings, and you have the cocktail hours where people all have their drinks in their separate little Brady Bunch windows, and that's better than nothing, in absence of anything. But yeah, to me, the most education and the most business building ever happened for me at a conference was usually in the cocktail hours, in the lounge, in the places where you're meeting people outside of the actual discussion groups.
You know what I learned was that I would make great friends at these events that I would go to, and at the standard committee meetings and at the IICRC meetings. And I still have those friends. But when I get into a job that's complicated and I'm looking for someone to help me, those are my go-to guys. Those are the guys that can help me. They want to help me. They want me to be successful. They're going to share information that I'm searching for. And it's critical that you have those relationships. And if you get into really big jobs, here's a whole team that can come in and help you. So, I mean, that networking piece is so important. And understanding that, these guys are doing the exact same thing you are, but everybody's got a little bit different level of knowledge and understanding in specific areas.
And yeah, you're not. That's what really brings, to me, that's where these type of events shine. And it seems like, and I haven't been to one of your experience events. I'm actually embarrassed to admit that. I know. I'm working on it.
I'm sending you a personal invitation.
I know. I'm working on it. I really am gonna, in earnest, try to be there at least for a day or so. So
come Thursday. You got to come party with us.
Well, I guess if that's the day I should probably come. This is, again, I've been flashing this on through the show, but this is the website for where you can find out more about the event, correct?
Absolutely.
Experiencetheevents.com.
Yeah, one of our great thing we've had going on is we sold out our room block a month ago. And every week I've gone to the hotel and begged for more rooms. So we've added rooms every week. As a matter of fact, this morning they just gave me 30 more rooms. So we've sold several thousand rooms, and we know there's going to be a lot of people here, obviously. But if you want to get a room for $104 a night at the Paris Hotel, go to our website, go to Venue. You can book it. You can register there. You don't want to stand in line. We'll have 500 on-site registrations. The lines do get long, and we try to process as quickly as we can, but why not just register in advance and you don't have to stand in the line? You walk up, print out your name badge, and you're done. So that's very easy. But yeah, the whole agenda is there also, Bob.
By the way, $104 a night for Paris is a crazy price. That's actually a really good price. When I looked at your website and saw that, I was like, wow. I mean, the rack rate on that place is like close to 300, right? Ish.
Yeah.
Just for their base rooms.
When we're done with our room block, they stop giving them to us. They go to $279 to $479. So absolutely very expensive. And we negotiated that rate 3 years ago.
I'm assuming you're able to do that to some extent just because you do have numbers. And that's one thing I really need to point out. In the indoor environmental industry, there's not very many events that rival the size of yours. To be honest, I mean, you look at, I'm not going to pick on any associations, but the individual associations have numbers that are somewhere around 10% of what you're talking here at their events.
Yeah, 300 to 600 is pretty normal, and it'd be really hard for us to hold an event at that level. But I got to tell you, the way we built our show is through collaboration. We want to work with the industry. We want to work with groups that are trying hard to improve the industry. We think we know a lot, but we know that we're just scratching the surface. And there's so much more we can be presenting to our audience by partnering with other organizations, by collaborating with people that are doing great work out there. And so you'll see that. We have 32 sponsors at this show, and they're all collaborating and helping us. And that is so vitally important to the success of the organization. I have a great team, but I got to tell you, our team and myself could not put on a show like this without so many other people helping us. It really is appreciated.
Well, and I do appreciate the difficulty of the logistics of running a show of this grandeur. And, it seems like yours would be more complex than many because you're doing a lot of hands-on, a lot of stuff it's not really just cut and dry. It's a lot easier to have people do PowerPoint presentations. That's not that hard to organize.
I have 20 volunteers coming in on Saturday before the show. And these guys are going to build all the houses and all the hands-on structures all around the room. They're all volunteers. They want to be part of the show. They want to meet guys and network. They want to make friends. They want to be a part of the action. And it's so awesome to work with everybody that comes in and helps. It's really a lot of fun.
I'm going to let you give us a closing thought, but before that, I'm going to just do a quick plug for us. So many of you are watching the show right now on the Healthy Indoors online global community, which is a platform we launched a couple months back that we're super excited about. This is a platform that a lot of it is free to the general public. Like this show and most of our other shows, anyone can just log into this community without being a member and see that. However, your most benefit is going to be to become a community member, because this is not just a place for information. It's not just a place for posting, like a Reddit post. This is also, it's a community. And what we're looking for is networking and people to actually collectively take that opportunity to meet each other from around the world, from different industry, different verticals. And we're hoping to, that we can help facilitate that. So that's, please, if you're not watching the show in the community right now, you're watching on one of the other many portals we pop up on, check out this website. It's going to be, I think, really of value to you, and I think you're going to get a lot from it. And we'll even run a little quick promo. Blaringly loud, wasn't it? It's like it's what what can I say, Larry? It's I'm engineering my own show. Since COVID, we stopped having an engineer in the studio, so when we broadcast, we engineer our own broadcast.
I think it was great. It was really beautiful artwork also.
Well, there you go. Thank you. So closing thoughts, Larry.
What I'd like to say is I want to invite you all to come join us. We'll be in Las Vegas. We're getting there the afternoon of the 7th. Registration opens the 8th, 9th, and 10th of September. We will be full on education tracks running, trade show running. You're welcome to join us. It's going to be a fun experience, and so much new information coming to the show. There are so many new product launches happening at our show. You want to stay on top of the market. You want to be in front of the market so that you are leading in your area. But again, the show is available for anyone that would like to attend, and happy to welcome you there. And absolutely call us if you have any questions. But you can go to our website, see everything about our agenda, see the trade show hall. All of our vendors are listed there. And then you can also register and book your hotel there. So please come join us. We're looking forward to having an event again. Thank you.
Fantastic. So we're at that time, Larry. It's like it's the end of the line. 60 minutes goes by so quick. It just does.
It's amazing to me.
It is, right? I mean, it's crazy to me too, because I always go, wow, we ran out of time already. But such is life. Uh, we'll be back again next week here for the Healthy Indoors live show. Um, every Thursday we're here, most every Thursday. I mean, I guess once in a while we're not here. We do a recorded broadcast, but for the most part, every Thursday from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern time. You can see us on the Healthy Indoors show. We would love to have you join us on a regular basis, and especially recommend that you join us on the global community. If you're not watching us there, if you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn, go to this site, because this is a great site to be at, because you're able to pose questions, and after the fact, you have access to the recordings for all the shows, as well as our podcast. We have an audio podcast too. So if you can't bear to look at me or Larry, you can at least, you can at least experience our golden voices. So for Larry Cooper, who's the managing partner of the Experience Events LLC, and again, final plug for your show, the Experience happening this September 8th through 10th at the Paris Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'll try to be there, so hopefully I'll see you there. But if not, you certainly should be joining Larry and his crew there, because it sounds like this is going to be one heck of a show.
We're really looking forward to it. Thanks so much, Bob. Really enjoyed spending some time with you.
Same here, Larry. It's a pleasure having you join us. So we'll see you all next week on the Healthy Indoors live show.